Does the company ever get sued, though, like for...
Someone across that account, huh?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Some debt collectors admit that breaking the law pays off.
It's worth it for people still to be illegal and collect money because...
But how far will some collectors go? Our investigation led us to an operation that some say looks more like organized crime than debt collection.
This particular group is probably the worst I've seen.
Remember Vicki Harrington and her $100,000 worth of debt from her son's cancer treatment?
These are all hospital.
She's grown accustomed to nonstop collection calls. But last summer, one message caught her attention.
He says he's a special investigator.
Daniel Hoffman.
Daniel Hoffman.
A special investigator from where?
Bethesda, Maryland Police Department. And he says there is a warrant issued for your arrest, Vicki Harrington.
Investigator Hoffman told her the warrant had to do with an old $800 debt. Pay up, even just half, or else.
He said I was issued a warrant and they were going to come and arrest me.
And take you away in handcuffs.
So I got off the phone and I cried. My son was scared to death that I was going to jail for something that I didn't even know anything about.
We really didn't know what to do. We didn't know who to turn to.
Across the country in Texas, another couple was getting similar calls with the same frightening news. So frightening, they still worry and asked us not to use their names. Last summer, they were expecting, with twins, when the messages started coming.
You might as well pack your bags and grab your coat because the sheriff is coming to pick it up.
When I heard this...
Like the Harringtons, they were told a warrant had been issued over an old credit card debt that the couple says was paid off 12 years ago.
I've had 4 felony charges placed in my office against you.
And it sure sounded like the police were already on their way.
We are requesting forcible entry if necessary. I need to know whether or not there are any weapons on the premises, ma'am.
When I heard this, we both started crying.
My husband was afraid he was going to go to jail.
It was like frantic, grab the dogs, grab some food, grab some clothes, let's get out of here.
Frightened and hiding in a hotel, the couple called a lawyer, John Fugate, for advice. Fugate suspected it was a debt collector posing as law enforcement, and he urged them to keep the conversation going.
Most of the collection agencies that are engaged in these type of tactics will deny that they ever engaged in those kind of tactics, so a tape recording is always good evidence.
They invite us to listen in as they call the alleged investigators back.
My name is Investigator Laura James. We've been trying to locate you, sir, in regards to this warrant we have here.
The first woman they speak to says it's urgent they call someone named Hoffman if they want to avoid being arrested. That's the same name used by that so-called investigator who called the other couple, the Harringtons.
You need to get Mr. Hoffman involved right now.
So he tries to get Hoffman on the phone.
Daniel Hoffman, I can help you.
I'm actually calling to inquire about a warrant.
The man on the other end says the warrant has already been issued.
This is a nonviolent felony offense, sir.
But he has the authority to stop it.
Basically, sir, if you want to be arrested, I can give you information. I can make a payment. That way the warrant can be rescinded.
So do I send the money to you? Who do I pay?
No. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not a collector, sir.
Okay.
The man calling himself Hoffman says he's not a debt collector and tells them to wire money to a lawyer who's handling the account. The choice, he says, is theirs. Pay up or get picked up.
If you don't want to pay it, sir, that's fine. It makes no difference in the state tag you picked up.
You said you were an officer? Who do you work with? What police station?
I work with the Bethesda, Maryland Police Department, sir.
We played that conversation to Dave Baker of the Montgomery County, Maryland Police Department, a district that includes Bethesda.
All fraud, all fake, all lies.
He says there is no Daniel Hoffman in this department, and Maryland law enforcement is not in the business of issuing arrest warrants for debt collectors.
I believe it's a criminal syndicate.
I'm dealing with the express wishes of the district attorney and the judge to sign up for the warrant here.
That's pretty aggressive.
They are using very aggressive tactics. It was strictly a shakedown.
So who's behind this operation? We wanted to find out, but it's not easy. For starters, the calls look like they're coming from Maryland, but that's a trick. They're using computer software to mask their real location. That means they could be anywhere.
You got pen and paper, sir? I'm going to give you the information.
However, they did leave behind one clue.
Sir, you go to Western Union.
In that phone call with the Texas couple, the so-called investigator told them to wire money to a lawyer. His name, Andrew Brisky.
Attorney Andrew Brisky.
And they were given an address for this attorney, which led us here to Depew, New York, just outside of Buffalo, which happens to be a national mecca for debt collection companies. Could this be the law office of attorney Andrew Brisky? Well, records show there is an Andrew Brisky, and the house is actually owned by his parents. But we couldn't find any record that Andrew Brisky is licensed to practice law in New York or anywhere else. So he may not have a law license, but he apparently has a driver's license and this car, which we tracked here to an office building in Buffalo. Could this be attorney Andrew Brisky? And is this where those threatening phone calls are coming from? Coming up, we go inside to find out.
I do want to know about some of the tactics being used at this company.